Hello everyone, welcome back to this object-oriented Python programming series using Python, and in this video we will learn that how we can use init method inside a class to initialize the variables. So I hope you remember that in the first video I explained that we have to define an object in order to use it in our software or in our program. And I explained that there are two things that will define an object, and one of them is attributes. So we call those attributes as variables. So these are the variables which hold the data that later on define an object, right? So what I will do, I have written this class and this one method just like in the previous video, a previous example that we discussed. And what I will do, I'll just go ahead and I will create an object called out1, and in that object I will store my class. Don't worry about these errors, we will just take a look at them after we have completed our code, right? So what I want to do is this time I want to use attributes to define my methods, right? So let's say I want to give a value to this class or this object, and I want to use that value inside this method. So for that, what I have to do is I have to initialize a variable that will hold the value that I will enter here, right? So I'll just go ahead and I will write def and double underscore init, and here you can see I have a couple of different suggestions. I'll just go ahead and click here, and here you can see a complete method has been printed out. I'll just go ahead and I will remove this just to keep it simple. Oops, okay. And here I will define the variable that will store the value that I will give here. So for example, I want to give 45 here. Okay, so this means that this object that I have created, it will operate on this value, right? And based on this value, it will perform whatever that is written here in the body of these methods. So I have given 45 to this class or this out1 object, and similarly I have to provide a variable to this class that will store this 45 in it before processing, right? So for that I'll just go ahead and I will use a variable here that's called number, right? So previously when we were discussing about the objects and how we can call a method using an object, for example, if I just go ahead and write here output1 dot test, and I will write here, that means this output1 will be an argument to this test method inside of this person class, right? In the previous video I told you that this output1 is actually a parameter or an attribute that we give to this test method, and that is stored inside this self argument here. So similarly, that means when we talk about methods and classes, then we have to use this self. So similarly, if we talk about this number right here, this value right here, and when we define an argument inside of our class, then we, in order to store that that value in a variable, when we initialize a variable, we have to use self. So for that, what we can do is we can create self and dot, and here you can write whatever name that you want to give to your variable. For example, I want to give number 1, and you will assign this number to this variable. So this argument that you use to capture this 45, you will assign that number to this self dot num1. Now this variable will be used in this entire class in any method that you want, right? So for example, if I just go ahead and here I write print, let's say the number is, and here I can give self dot number, right? A slight difference, the class is person with small p, so I can just go ahead and here change it change it accordingly. What it will do when you will call this object or when you will call this test function from this object, and you have given this object a value, this value will be stored in this number, and this object will be given to this argument, and the value 45 will be stored in it, and that will be supplied to this self.num1, and afterwards we will use this variable to print out our value 45. So if I'll just go ahead and if I will print out or execute my Python program, here you can see we have an error. So what is this error? Yeah, we had to write this variable here, so I mistakenly wrote number. So again, save it and run it, and here you can see the output, the number is 45, has been printed out. Okay, so that means that's how this initialization method works. We use this init method to initialize our variables. So it works exactly same like constructor in other programming languages like C#, C++, and Java, right? So you can think of it as another constructor that we use in our classes. So remember, in the first video I said that we use classes as a design or as a blueprint, and using that design or blueprint we create multiple objects to perform different tasks. So here we can just go ahead and create another object. We can call that out2, and again I will call my class, and this time I will give it a value of Talha, let's say, let's stick to the integers. Let's give it 100, and here you will call your test method using your second object, right? Okay, so I'll just go ahead and let's say I clear out this prompt and I run this program. So here you can see this object is out1 printed 45, and this object printed 100, and for both of these objects we used a same design or same blueprint that is called this class. So that's how classes, objects, and methods work. So that's what actually means when I said that we use a single structure, a single design, or a single blueprint to create multiple objects that will perform different tasks. Here we have used a very simple example by giving different integer values, but in complex examples it works exactly the same way.